Hello. The top lawmaker in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives is joining us to talk all things Harrisburg. House Speaker Joanna McClinton is our guest today. We'll ask her about a number of items, from proposed changes to early voting in Pennsylvania to the future of recreational marijuana in the Commonwealth. Plus, we're talking to the executive director of Pennsylvania's Human Relations Commission. He's been on the road all across the Commonwealth having candid conversations as part of the beloved community tour. We'll ask him about what he's hearing. So pull up a chair and meet us at the corner. Intersection starts right now. Hello, I'm Lisa Smith, the Director of Community Impact at KDKA Plus and the host of Intersections. Well, June will be a very busy month for state lawmakers in Harrisburg. Both the House and Senate will be in session with a packed schedule. So what's in store? We have just the person with us to answer that question. House Speaker Joanna McClinton has been the Speaker since 2023. She represents portions of Philadelphia and Delaware counties, and she is the first woman elected as a Democratic leader of the House. Thank you so much for being back with us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I was looking at the schedule and June is packed. Is it because of the budget discussions that are still happening right now?
Absolutely. So Pennsylvania's state budget deadline is June 30th. In anticipation of all the compromise, all the bills that'll go back and forth between the state House and the state Senate, getting them to Governor Shapiro's desk, we have sessions scheduled for every week so that we can be as productive as possible.
Yeah, we want to talk about some of the items on there, but for you, are there any items that really kind of stick out for you as areas that you really want to see some concentration on?
For sure, without a doubt. Number one for me is what's on the mind of most Pennsylvanians with children: public education. We've got to make sure in every corner of this Commonwealth, especially here in Western PA, that our state is doing our responsibility of funding public schools. Our state constitution tells us we must provide children a thorough and efficient education. Last year, we were able to invest new dollars into public schools, and it will, over time, make all the difference in the life of our children, getting them ready for the world, ready for college, ready for the trades, ready for the real world. But we've got to continue that investment and keep steady so that we can see the change.
Yeah, so it looks like there are additional dollars in the proposed budget for education. The one thing that we're noticing, especially here in Pittsburgh, is for Pittsburgh Public Schools, enrollment is low and they're closing down some of their buildings, reducing the number of buildings. Is this something that is being seen across the state? And are there specific things in this proposed budget that kind of addresses that issue?
So in the state level, we don't control schools locally.
Sure.
I live in Philly, so we've got a school board, we have a superintendent just like you do here. But what I am saying to the school board and the school superintendent where I live is that if we know right now we have a dwindling population. Of course, we've got children, but we don't need every building to have only a third of the students going there. We have high schools that are built for 1,500, 2,000 children, but they only have 500 children showing up. What can we do to save money? What can we do to reduce our expenses so that every dollar we invest at the state level goes a bit farther? So I encourage those conversations in my community. I let them know between West and Southwest Philly, we don't need 5 high schools that are built to serve 2,000 children when each of them only have 400 kids. We need to consolidate so that there is as much bang for our buck that we're giving out at the state level as possible.
Yeah. The other thing we're hearing obviously recently is Penn State is reducing the satellite campuses. They're connecting that to also a decrease in numbers. Is there something happening right now around the state in terms of attracting, students to different schools or to different districts? Like that enrollment thing is popping up in various areas.
Well, one of the things we've seen is it's a different generation from when I went to school. I went to college in 1999, and the school I chose only had one campus. Most of the students in this generation who want to go to Penn State are looking for the big university park experience. They're looking to get out of even cities like Pittsburgh to go and be in Happy Valley, go to the football games, be at the whiteout, and they're not able to duplicate that learning experience in these branch campuses. These branch campuses have had utility for years, and the board and president are deciding that with enrollment continuing to decrease, they don't need to waste money at these branch campuses, but the ones that are doing really well, they're going to continue to be there. Altoona, the nursing students are all starting for Penn State at Altoona. All of these campuses won't close, but the ones where they haven't seen many students wanting to continue to study there, they're going to be closing it because, as their president reminds me, we do not fund our universities at levels that other states around Pennsylvania do, Ohio, West Virginia. So they have to make tough decisions.
So why is that funding different here versus some other states?
It just has not been the #1 priority in the state capitol. When we think about the fact that it's been a lawsuit that got us to do a better job with funding public education fairly, we don't know what it will take for us to be able to give the investment to our university students, because university students are from all backgrounds and all ages. Some of them are leaving workforce, going to university to change jobs, get trained in a new profession, professions that we need, like law enforcement, nurses. So we have to continue to double down on that investment.
Yeah. Another thing that I guess you've been instrumental in is working on changing voting and access to voting here in the Commonwealth. So talk a little bit about what that bill does and how it changes early voting, I believe is the area.
That's right. Yeah. So my first bill came out of the State House just a few weeks ago in Harrisburg. And it's very exciting to me because Pennsylvania is where our whole nation started. Next year we'll be celebrating 250th birthday, but democracy has to be like so special to us in the birthplace of democracy. And a lot of times after elections, you hear conspiracies, you hear people with questions on their mind. Why does it take so long to count the ballots? Well, that's because of how our law is set up. We need changes in our election law. And some of the things that my bill will do when the Senate gets it to the governor's desk is make sure that the county election officials can organize all those mail-in ballots so we're not waiting till the last minute on election day to finally start counting. Another thing that's important is that we have early voting. 25 other states do, where you go to your county election office and you vote with the machine for a week or two before election day. That helps seniors who have trouble with transportation, or maybe even members of our disability community who need assistance or need interpreters, folks who might take a little bit longer, or those with small children who are juggling a lot, but Tuesday in that November from 7 a.m. to 8, it doesn't work for them. So we look forward to modernizing our election law and making sure that if there's any doubt that our elections are safe, we modernize the law to make sure folks know our elections, in fact, are safe.
So that it passed the House, is in the Senate currently. Do you have confidence that it will make it through the Senate?
That is my hope. I don't have confidence today, but we're going back to Harrisburg in June to have those conversations on where we can get the compromise to get that bill out of the Senate to the governor's desk.
Okay, well, you're going to stick around. We're going to have much more with Speaker McClinton in our next segment. So you stick around. Intersections, we'll be right back. We are continuing our conversation with Pennsylvania House Speaker Joanna McClinton. Thanks again for staying with us. So we want to talk a little bit about Medicaid. Obviously, in Washington, D.C., there's a lot of talk around cuts to Medicaid. And you, along with some other lawmakers, sent a letter to Senator Fetterman asking for some intervention. Tell us a little bit about what is it that you are hoping to see changed as it relates to Medicaid cuts?
So we are hopeful that through our federal lawmakers, Senator Fetterman, Senator McCormick, and all of our members of Congress, and the letter was sent to everyone, that they will let the president know, when you ran, you said you would never cut Medicaid or Medicare. And so now that we're at this hour where they're working on their budget plan for the next year, we need them to keep their promises. In Pennsylvania, 3 million people have coverage through Medicaid. It's not called that on your insurance card, it's with some affiliate, but our children, over half children in Pennsylvania have Medicaid. Women who are having babies, our expectant moms, more than half of those births are paid for by Medicaid, and they're given 1 additional year to make sure there are no postpartum issues after they give birth. We've changed the law to make sure there are doulas available when they have babies, to make sure that there are postpartum screens, so anybody fighting and battling depression will have to deal with that. And there are many seniors who age at home because of the waiver program. They have nurses, they have physical therapy come in and out of their homes to keep them strong and healthy. And anybody who's in a nursing facility, most of that bill is paid by Medicaid. So it is critical and crucial that we keep that program in place. We're counting on our federal lawmakers to stand up to the president and say, yes, you want to save money, then save money, but not on the cost of those who need health care.
And there are a large portion of state dollars for the budget really that comes through those federal Medicaid dollars. Is that correct?
That's correct. So the way it's set up is it's like the federal government says, oh, you're signed up for your state to provide health care, so you're going to get us to pay most of the bill. So they match $25 billion of our budget, which is like almost half of our budget. They give us extra money to pay for hospitalization stays, to pay nursing home bills, to pay for our children to get eye exams, all the things that are basic and that we need. And so if there is even a small cut, even a little haircut, it will really be catastrophic. We do not have the capacity in Harrisburg to make up billions of dollars in healthcare costs.
Did you get a response? Was there a response from Senator Fetterman to the letter?
No response yet to the senator's office, but contacted the staff, let them know what we're sending. They confirm receipt. Every federal lawmaker in Pennsylvania has that letter, and it's signed by our entire leadership team, including right out here in Beaver County, Representative Rob Matsey. We all signed on to it to make sure they know this is not a Philadelphia issue, a Pittsburgh issue. This is all of Pennsylvania's House leadership saying we cannot afford to lose this program.
Okay. Another issue that I know you were in favor of was legalizing recreational marijuana. It passed through the House, correct?
That's right.
But it did not make it through the Senate.
And it was quick.
Yeah.
My joke has been the Senate lit it up. They lit the bill on fire. So we passed the Health and Safety Cannabis Act because there's so many doctors that we meet with, including right here in Allegheny County, my colleague, Representative Vinkett, who works at the emergency rooms on the weekends when he's not in Harrisburg. People using marijuana are showing up with psychotic episodes because it is not safe. It's often laced with very deadly drugs, and we've got to do something about it. Ohio over here, New York up top to our north, New Jersey on the side of the state where I live, Delaware and Maryland all have recreational marijuana. So Pennsylvania at this point is in a place where there are billboards when you're on highways to go to other states if this is something you're interested in doing. So we hoped that the Senate would just look at our bill, make the amendments, but instead they called it up for a vote and let the bill be killed immediately. So that ended the conversation so very quickly. It's a disappointment.
So I thought I saw that there might be another state senator interested in reintroducing it from the Senate side.
Yes.
Yeah. So what do you know about that? And do you think that that is a potential workaround?
Senator Laughlin in Erie says that he has his own bill, and it's like just as easy to put his bill into the one we sent, but he says he's going to send it, so we anxiously await, because when we think about folks driving out of PA to choose to do marijuana and get it from other states, that's not right. That's not good for our economy. That's costing us jobs, that's costing us tax revenue, and people who choose to stay and do it in an illegal market, it could be costing them their sanity and their health.
Mm-hmm. The other thing is the Affordable Care Act, which there has been perhaps some discussion in Washington around maybe changing that. There is legislation in Pennsylvania to codify different segments. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, we passed 4 bills out of the House that went to the state Senate. The first one is to make sure there is no ban on pre-existing conditions. The second one is to make sure there's no ban on a limit to how much coverage you can get. The third one is to keep our young adults insured, to keep them up to 26 years old. And we want to make sure that in Pennsylvania, God forbid anything go wrong in Washington where they take away health care or change who's eligible to be covered, that we still have the provisions in our state law to protect and cover all of our neighbors.
Okay, well, we definitely have a lot to watch coming out of Harrisburg in the month of June. So thank you so much for joining us and giving us this update. We really appreciate it, and we will definitely have you come back another time.
Thank you.
All right. Well, coming up, the Pennsylvania Human Relations Council is touring the state. The executive director shares details. Intersections. We'll be right back. Well, there's another state official who has been touring the Commonwealth. Chad Lassiter is the executive director of the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission. And recently, he visited Western Pennsylvania for the Beloved Community Tour. That tour is designed to have real conversations about discrimination and promote a culture of peace within communities. Kind of explain a little bit about what the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission does do around the state.
Certainly. The Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission, we are the Commonwealth's top civil rights enforcement agency, protecting citizens from all forms of unlawful discrimination. Ironically, we're in our 70th year. We were created in 1955, so we predated the Civil Rights Act by 10 years. And so we protect citizens in the Commonwealth from forms of discrimination in public accommodations, housing, employment, commercial property. Just in Pittsburgh, you're in the news, so you're well aware of just what happened in the Squirrel Hill district. So folk who are saying, well, no, there's no discrimination, they can live in a delusional state. What we say at PHRC is that we want to be peace builders and we want to bridge the divide. And so that's why we're called to do some of the work that we're doing because we're servant leaders.
You mentioned Squirrel Hill, and I was going to bring that up. Obviously, what you're referring to is the recent pamphlets that were passed around in the Squirrel Hill community, as well as in a portion of Washington County, some racial pamphlets that were handed out. So what should or can people do? They can contact your agency, but is there more people can do? Are there more people that they can engage where they maybe feel that they have some true recourse when these things happen?
Great question. From a strengths-based perspective, first and foremost, I say that people can look within their communities. So before we even speak about PHRC, I'd be remiss if I didn't say there are a lot of communities that collaborate. There are a lot of communities that do social justice coalition building. And so communities that are faced with hate, they know where the hate comes from. They may know who the hate is perpetrated by, those indifferent actors. So I think that communities can build coalitions. They can work with in tandem with organizations. There is the Jewish Federation out in Pittsburgh. There's the Urban League. There are auxiliary groups. There are individuals who are committed to justice against the backdrop of hate. So I start there. Secondly, I would say that the PHRC, we have relationships with a lot of these organizations. So we have relationships with the Urban League of Pittsburgh. We have relationships with the Urban League of Philadelphia. We have relationships with the majority of the NAACP branches, but also the Anti-Defamation League and multiple others. I think what people have to do is when they see hate or something that feels awkward to them, they can call their local police. They can call the state police. With regards to discrimination in schools, we know on the federal level that the Office of Civil Rights has been gutted out. So from a school perspective, we want them to reach out to the Department of Education on the state level. They most certainly can reach out to the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission. If there are some microaggressions on college campuses, first and foremost, they should reach out to their school officials. But they also should know that PHRC, we do race dialogue on college campuses. And so I think in the moment that we find ourselves in, we have to pull on myriad of other organizations. It's not just the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission, But when it comes to administering the Pennsylvania Human Relations Act, that's where we are at. We have enforcement powers. And so we have something in our PHRA called commission initiated complaints, where we can make sure that we can go into communities if communities are articulating to us some things that are happening around anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, AAPI hate, discriminating against people for this because they're disabled. That's where we show up. But I think it's important for your viewing audience to also fundamentally recognize that we do trainings. So though we are an enforcement agency, we do trainings that help communities come together. We have a civil rights division. They're called CROCs, which is the acronym for Civil Rights Outreach Coordinators. And they go into communities where there is civil unrest. They have something called CRPs, which is community response plans, where communities call upon us. We set out to go to all 67 counties to listen to the stories of the people in those counties. The listening affords us an opportunity to learn. Once we learn, we're able to lead. And every community is different. I know that Pennsylvania has challenges, but I believe you have Philadelphia, you have Pittsburgh, and in between, you have 67 counties that make up this Commonwealth, not without its problems. So I don't engage in a form of naivete. I do not engage in a form of naivete. We have some problems in the Commonwealth, but for the most part, the Commonwealth is filled with people who are living out their dreams to the best of their ability, not without challenges, once again.
If you could narrow it down to one significant moment or comment that you've heard on this tour.
What I will say that in its totality, visiting all of these counties has me thinking about two words: a moral reimagination. And that moral reimagination is, how do we reimagine Pennsylvania differently from an infrastructure standpoint, from jobs perspective, from demographic shifts? And so that's where I would leave it, is that 67 counties, the beauty of PA, the ruralness, the suburban aspect, the urban aspect.
And I'll have my last word when we come back.
Gilbert Baker was an American artist, designer, flag maker, and longtime gay rights activist. In 1978, he created the rainbow flag, or pride flag. It quickly became a symbol for the LGBTQ community, one that continues today, more than 45 years later.
Graduation is the time of year when students from kindergarten to college are transitioning into the next phase of their educational lives. It's a time met with pomp and circumstance, parties and confetti. It's a celebration, but it's also contemplation. It's the ending of long-standing routines and the beginning of the unknown. Ultimately, it's the continuing of education, because in life, we never stop learning. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Intersections.